You know, India and Israel are strategic partners. The expansion of defense and security partnerships is in focus during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel. Let's look at this report.
On day 2 of his official visit to Israel, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold bilateral talks with his Israeli counterpart, PM Benjamin Netanyahu. India-Israel defense cooperation remains one of the most robust and strategically vital bilateral partnerships, evolving from arms imports to joint development, co-production and technology sharing. It is driven by shared security concerns, including terrorism. Following the Gaza conflict, Israel is actively executing strategic pivot to Asia to diversify its economic, tech and defense partnerships. Between 2020 and 2024, Israel supplied 13% of India's total arms imports, while India accounted for 34% of Israel's defense exports. An MOU was inked in 2025 to enable sharing of advanced tech and promote co-development and co-production of defense equipments. Israel's expertise in air defense could be an important addition to India's arsenal.
I see India and Israel defense ties as a capability partnership shared by a together regional environment. India faces persistent security pressures, but it also had managed escalation risks. That is why it invests in tools that create decision time and operational flexibility. Air defense, ISR, drones, counter-drones, precision, and cyber. The Israeli advantage is not only equipment, but the ability to integrate systems and learn quickly under pressure.
As India expands its defense infrastructure and indigenous manufacturing capability, Israel continues to be an important partner, especially with its expertise in tech and innovation. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel is expected to achieve a new breakthrough in security cooperation. With camera person Anand Kumar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India, Jerusalem.
Right, Shubhendu, we just played out your story once again, this time on defense ties. Tell us to what, how does the defense industry in Israel function? How much freedom do they have in terms of, are they, largely private sector driven?
Right, Mark. It'll be interesting to look at the context in which India-Israel defense ties are maturing. Talking about the defense industry of Israel, it is one of the most cutting-edge ecosystems in the world. It's renowned, the manner in which they can evolve and adapt to changing circumstances, their defense ecosystems. And when world over, Israeli defense products are known for their quality and state-of-the-art manufacturing. Now, India and Israel share a very, very close defense and security partnership, Mark, that we all know. But there is something that has happened in the past 5 years, particularly around the Gaza conflict. For a long time, the main market for Israeli defense products, security products, used to be Europe. It still is in many ways, but that is shifting. A lot of European countries have also sort of changed their stance towards trading in defense products with Israel around the Gaza conflict. And this is also the time when India's partnership with Israel in defense and security has been boosted significantly. We looked at those figures of about 13% of India's defense imports coming in from Israel in this period of 2022 to 2024. And Israel also sending a significant part of its exports is directed towards India. So in that changing geopolitics, India-Israel friendship, partnership is also getting highlighted, and the defense and security industry in particular is in focus. And one of the ways in which India and world over, people who admire Israel's defense industry is the manner in which you get access to an entire ecosystem. Now, there are other countries in the world who of course, are invested in a very state-of-the-art defense ecosystem. But there are always clauses as to what you can buy, what you cannot buy. A particular country may not sell you the most advanced, for example, most advanced fighter jet. It will sell you a sort of generation lower, and similarly with other weapons. So that's not the case with Israel. There are really no conditions to what is available for India to purchase and the manner in which the ecosystems can converge. And that is where, in fact, the people we've spoken to, the stakeholders, they say, now the time is right that from this import-export relationship, the relationship is now maturing into co-production, joint production. In fact, if we recall last year, the agreement that was signed between both the governments in the defense sector was on co-production. And we've seen that emphasis on Make in India by Indian government as well. And in that sense, Israel is said to be a very, very significant partner to take that Make in India co-production and manufacturing in the country, that mission forward. Mark?
Ambassador Bhattacharya, how do missions abroad deal with defense ties and promoting defense ties? Would that largely fall in the domain, obviously, of the defense ministry? To what extent do our missions facilitate this kind of exchange of views and also business potential?
Well, it's always a core function of any Indian embassy or mission abroad to look at our defense, security, strategic interests and to set up partnerships. I think the nature of war is changing. Unfortunately, wars are not coming to an end. They will continue. But there is a slight change in form of war. While, physical wars with the use of force will be there and will continue for a long time, there is a new kind of war that is coming about because of your digital age and your cyber capabilities. And these are slightly different in their orientation. So we have a collaboration with Israel, which is robust in both these domains. In the first one, which is a physical platforms and weapon systems, we do have a very wide-ranging collaboration which extends going down to the kind of startups that are working on in these areas and the kind of collaboration that we can have. As is well known, there is very good technology that is being developed in Israel, and at the same time, there is very good skill potential in India, as well as the ability to scale up. So the complementarities of this particular partnership are very clear when we look at the defense sector. But this is going to become most marked because, and I think you will see it in the statements coming out of this particular visit, that the emphasis in many ways will focus on areas of cyber, quantum, of AI, space capabilities, and these are the ones which are the emerging areas where we are actually contributing in terms of the knowledge as well as the scaling up of these particular potential. And again, given that we have a very, very high level of trust and confidence between the two systems, the movement of these skills and capabilities happen in a much more smooth manner. So this is absolutely the very fundamental work that embassies do. Embassies don't represent only one particular ministry, they represent all of government, as you know.
Right, absolutely. So, General Katoch, if we look now at how things have developed, and of course, Shubhendu talks now, we're talking about co-production, joint production. To what extent, India, of course, is also has a vibrant startup culture. Many of them are involved in the defense space. The private sector is increasingly becoming more prominent. India is pushing Atmanirbharta as well. How does this all fit in with tie-ups with countries like Israel, which are at the forefront in the sense of cutting-edge technology?
The first thing which I think of is that the strategic interest of Israel and India coincide. We face the same challenges, we have the same problems, and we face the same threats. So the nature of the threats is also similar. Like when we're looking at terrorism, Israel faces the same sort of threat as what we face in India. Now, we have certain capacities and capabilities, especially when we talk about space capabilities, missile capabilities, and also capabilities in the cyber domain. Israel also has capabilities, and in many senses, some of the Israeli capabilities are the most advanced in the world. They even sometimes surpass what capacities countries like the United States has. I think there is a great convergence now that if we actually go in for joint ventures, joint productions, our capabilities, the capabilities and the talent which India has can actually mesh with what the Israelis have. And it can produce great synergies in any of the joint ventures that we have. For these joint ventures, it has been my view for a very long time that the private sector needs to be invested in far more. The public sector has actually, in a sense, reached its limits. Okay. So if India has to get to where we are in terms of defense production, while the public sector has done a brilliant job so far, it is not by itself enough. And the private sector increasingly will have to take a much greater role. The defense minister has, over the last few years, the statements which have come out from the Ministry of Defense, the private sector has been energized to a considerable extent. I think this process is going to increase further, especially when we are looking into cooperation with Israel. I visualize a large portion of this joint ventures taking place between Israeli companies and the Indian private sector.
Indeed, Shubhendu, so taking that forward, if the private sector has to get more energized, more people-to-people linkages are important, driven, of course, by ordinary businessmen and civilians. To what extent, is the ordinary Israeli looking at this relationship between India and Israel? How do they perceive it? And you did speak to some strategic analysts as well. How do they view the relationship?
Right, at the heart of it, Mark, there are different layers of convergence as far as people-to-people connect is concerned. On the one hand, something that is celebrated by both sides is this civilizational link over 2 millennia, over 2,000 years of linkages that Prime Minister also elaborated in his Knesset speech. But in the modern times, in the Israel and India of today, there is a great degree of comfort and understanding with one another, which is the hallmark of the relationship with that Indian ambassador to Israel highlighted when I had a conversation with him. Now, what that leads to is that there are different opportunities that are available in each other's countries. If we talk about the workforce mobilization, for instance, Israel, again, around the time of the Gaza conflict, faced acute shortage of workforce, especially in the skilled and semi-skilled stage. And that is where it turned to India, which is known for its vast talent pool of different kind of skill levels. And thousands of Indian skilled and semi-skilled workers then moved to Israel to offer their services. Many of them work in the domain of caregivers. They're also working in the construction sectors. I happened to, yesterday in the diaspora event, I met a couple of young men who are caregivers in Israel. And I asked them, what is your experience? What is your work like? What if you were doing the same work in India or somewhere else? How would it be different somewhere else in West Asia? So they said that the people are very friendly. There's a cultural connect that they appear to have. They can connect with Indians immediately as sort of, many of the Jewish people also have Indian roots. There's some 85,000 citizens of Israel who have Indian origin who then moved to Israel. So in that sense, people-to-people connect is very rock solid, and it's sort of taken forward by these different engagements. Also, they said that the work opportunities, what they earn, the sort of quality of life that they have, that is also much better here in Israel than many other parts of West Asia, for instance. There are some malpractices in some countries where passports of the workers are taken away and they're sort of employed in different sectors. But he specifically said that some of his friends face that challenge, but in Israel, there is no such harassment. It's a very open, equal society. Indian workers have equal rights like Israeli workers. So opportunities are many. And besides skilled and semi-skilled, there are hundreds of Indian students studying, as one of our guests mentioned earlier, in the top Israeli institutions. So at different levels, Mark, this engagement, this people-to-people connect is at play between India and Israel.